And Ricky, now we're going to head over to a topic that I know you've been really interested about for quite a few weeks here, and we have not yet been able to get to it. But guess what? You don't have to worry anymore, my friend, because the time has come. We are talking about it tonight, and it's the Cincinnati Reds. This is Reds country.
The Rojos.
What are you thinking, Ricky? Because the Cincinnati Reds, for a long time, have been just a team that's there. They're just there. Sometimes they're a little bit of a pain in the butt to play because sometimes they have your number, especially as a Cubs fan. And then other times it always seems, I don't want to say always seems, but it just seems like Cincinnati should not be as bad as they've been. And I think that possibly, and I think you do too, think that this could be the year that changes for the Cincinnati Reds. And Ricky Widmer, I'm giving you the floor.
Yeah, this is one that I've wanted to talk about for weeks because let's pump the brakes, people. Like, I think it was Sam, one of our patrons. We're going to have him on later after we talk about the Reds. That first, I thought it was just Sam at first, I'll be honest, where he was like, the Reds are going to, I can't remember, Sam will have to correct me. I want to say that he said the Reds were going to win the division or that they're the big dark horse in the Central. I was like, really, the Reds? A team not even like a year or two ago? Yeah, a year ago we were saying 67 wins, this team sucks. They're the Reds. Well, they have made some moves, but I don't understand where people, it's like, here's what I think. The people that think the Reds are going to make a huge splash this year are the same people that think the White Sox are going to win the NL Central. And I would even put my money on the Sox winning the Central before I have the Reds even sniffing second place in the NL Central. And to me, this is just something that I think, is it going to be a tough division? Yes. Is it probably going to be Cardinals on top, Brewers and Cubs right there, and the Reds maybe a little bit more? Like, could I see an 80-win season out of the Reds? Yes, but that's pie in the sky to me. I know it's only 5 more wins. But, like, for me, this team is it possible to say that a team can be a little bit better than they were last year but still win the same amount of games? Like, on the field show that, yes, there is improvement, even though the win-loss record doesn't reflect that. Is that possible? Because that's what I think this season's going to be, where Reds fans goes, okay, we've got something cooking here, but we just need something else to get us a little bit more wins. Is it a new manager? Is it different free agents? I don't think this is going to be the season where the Reds are the second place team or the third place team in this division. I think they get like maybe 2 or 3 wins, 5 at the most, better than last year, but are still fourth in the Central. That's what I think, personally.
So they've made some really good moves. I mean, I think the two moves that the Reds made that were really, really good were the Mike Moustakas signing and the Nick Castellanos signing.
Yep.
I mean, those two guys add really good power to your lineup, and I think that's always going to be something that you want to have. They signed Wade Miley. Their starting 5 pitching unit is not bad at all. When you've got Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, Trevor Bauer, Anthony DeSclafani, and then Wade Miley, I think that's a pretty strong group, especially those first 3 with Castillo, Gray, and Bauer. If Sonny Gray can kind of get back to where he was in his Oakland A's days, because he wasn't all that great when he went to the Yankees. Sonny Gray needs to kind of get it back. Trevor Bauer's a pretty good pitcher. He was a pain in the butt over in Cleveland. Couldn't stand playing against him because he's a good pitcher. And I think you have Luis Castillo, at the top. Wade Miley's not a bad addition either. So there's very much hope for the Cincinnati Reds, and a lot of reason that the Cincinnati Reds fans should feel really good about this season, or at least coming into this season. You know, I think it's going to be, for me, it's going to be, how's your bullpen? Can you close out games? The games that you should win, are you winning? And if you're able to do that, then that goes to show that you're making strides and that you're getting better. That, to me, would show that you're doing better. A change in your record, yeah, that would be nice. I mean, but I think that if you have the same record that you have last season, it's going to be hard to convince people that you played better this season. But now if you have your record at home gets better and your record on the road gets worse to even out to be the same record, then I guess you could say we got better improvement when we played at home. We just played better, but we just really were bad on the road. I mean, you could, I guess, try and sell it that way, but the Cincinnati Reds, in my mind, they have a lot of things to be really excited about coming into this season.
Well, and here's the thing I also think about is who you're playing. And for me, in order for the Reds to be better, it's where are they going to get those wins? Another guy I will say I'm excited for because he was my favorite player to play in late last year in MLB The Show. He's probably going to be one of my favorite players to play with this year in MLB The Show. I usually fuck up his name. The 25-year-old kid has the weird batting stance, hits bombs for days. Aquino, I think is his last name. Asrididis. I hope I'm fucking saying that wrong. Someone correct me. Aquino, probably my favorite player. One of my favorite players in the MLB, and he's on the Reds. But where are these wins going to come from? This is a team last year.
Aristides Aquino?
That one. I was even looking at the name, and I fucked it up. But where are the wins going to happen? This is a team last year that against interleague opponents, they were around 500. They were one game below. They were 9-11. One more win, they're 10-10 in interleague play. Against the East and against the West, they were straight 500. 17-17 against the East, 16-16 against the West. If I look at it this way, the West might stay the same. Dodgers are really good. Diamondbacks are below the Dodgers, but still a good team. They should be able to get wins and feast off of wins against the Giants, Rockies, and Padres. The East is a different story. Braves are going to be really good. I think Nationals are going to be good. I think Phillies are going to be better than what they were last year, and I think the Mets are going to be just as good as they were last year. Like, these are four teams that are 80-win teams. I think the Phillies might have a little bit more wins than they have last year. Like, this might be something where every team in that division has at least 87 wins on their docket. The Reds might lose a couple more games there. The big one is their own division, though. Like, you look at the Cardinals, a reason why they won the division, 46-30 against the NL Central. Whereas compared to the Reds, 33-43. And this is a thing where I look at it and it's like, that's where you need to get those wins. That's where you need to feast. The Cardinals were 46-30 against their division. Brewers was 45-31. They were right there with the Cardinals. That's why they were 2 games back. The Cubs had a losing record against the division, 37-39. That's why they were 7 games back in my mind. And then the Reds were 33-43. The thing that will determine how the Reds do is how do you do against the Cubs, what do you do against the Brewers, and what do you do against the Cardinals? Because you're probably going to get wins against the Pirates.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think about Joey Votto, where he's at right now? Because Joey Votto, he's like, I think for a lot of people, still the face of this franchise. I think that's changing a little bit, and that's probably right, only because he has been declining over the last couple of years. It's not his fault. I mean, it's what happens with age a lot of times. Things are going to decline, and he's not old by any means, but for the sport,
36 years old.
He's getting older. Is it time to kind of put Joey, or is it coming time to put kind of Joey Votto? Thanks. We appreciated your service. You were amazing. You were a great player. The fans loved you. It's time to move on. Do you think that's going to happen with Joey Votto here soon?
I mean, I don't know. Let's look at the depth chart really quick. And the thing for me that makes it to where it's like, okay, maybe not this year is, let's see, how many, I'm pulling up a name and I want to see how many at-bats he got. So 113 games, 251 at-bats, okay. To me, it would all come down to who's going to take his spot. And I almost feel like the question is going to come between basically 3 guys, 2 spots, where first base and second base, that left side of the infield, right? Do you, I always fuck this up. When you say left side of the infield, are you thinking perspective from the pitcher looking at home plate or the hitter looking out at the field? So when they say like
the left side of the infield,
yes.
I'd say third and short.
Okay, then the right side of the infield. I always fuck that up because I'm a those who don't know me, I'm a pitcher at heart. Like that's where my mindset is. So whenever I think, my perspective of the field is what if I'm on the mound. So that's why I said left. So the right side of the field, first and second base. Because right now in the depth chart for the Reds, they have Votto at first and Moose at second. But you also got to look at Dietrich's, who was good last year, played in 113 games last year. How is he going to factor into this? And could it be that Moose and Dietrich are starting over a Joey Votto, to where I almost feel like Joey Votto is going to sooner rather than later kind of morph into, I'm going to relate it to my team, the Cubs.
Is Derek Dietrich still on the team?
He's on the depth chart for the Reds. I'm looking at ESPN. They have him on the depth chart. Let's pull up Spot Rack. Spot checking right here on the podcast. Let's see.
Well, I guess I hadn't heard anything differently, but
so Spot Rack has him right now. It depends on if you highlight over, it says minor.
Okay.
So if he doesn't make the team, then obviously, but he's still on the team.
Because I was just looking at the depth chart on Reds.com, and I'm looking and I see
And he's not there.
Nick Senzel behind Moose, and then Kyle Farmer, but I didn't see Derek Dietrich there, so that's why I was
Spot
wondering.
Rack. Maybe it's because he's 30-year-old. Is he going to be in the minors? Question is, if he's on the team and he's in the majors, what happens with this team to where I almost feel like if you have that situation that I talked about, if it's him, Votto, and Moose, that I think Joey Votto sooner rather than later is going to shift into a David Ross type of role where it's like you're still helping this team. You can still go out there and play. Like David Ross's last year was John Lester's personal catcher and could still go out there and pinch hit when needed. And Joey Votto, I think, can have that in them. I just think that this year might be the barometer to where it's like, okay, can he still be the everyday player? Because he wasn't bad last year. Last year, he had the second most at-bats on this team. He batted a .261, struck out a hell of a lot of times, 123 times. But he didn't even strike out the most. Suarez had more than him. He had 189. But, like, you look at Votto, he's obviously 10 years removed from his MVP season. You're not going to expect that much out of him, but I wonder when's the time going to come where he gets shifted to more of that bench bat and bench role rather than starter, because I think that's closer to happening than him staying a starter for the Reds long term.
Yeah, and I just wonder that because again, it's one of these things where eventually you probably end up having to part ways, and it doesn't have to be in a bad sense, but Votto's just he hasn't been the same player. He's not getting the same statistics.
Really, he hasn't since 2017.
No, he hasn't, and that's just where if you're the Reds and you're trying to compete, you don't want to have that position be holding you back, or have a bat in the lineup that's basically a strikeout every third time type of deal. So
to me, Joey Votto was at his best when he was, like Big Al would say, "My name's Big Al, and I hit dingers." Joey Votto was at his best when he was hitting dingers, and like you look at it, his MVP season 2010, he hit a whole 37 dingers. That's when he drove in 113 RBIs for this Reds team. Since 2017, Votto had 36 dingers, 100 ribbies. For the at-bats, yes, he did have about, if my math is correct, about 31 more at-bats that year than he did this past year. But even look at this. The last 3 years, 2017, his WAR was a 7.5. 2018, it dropped to a 3.5. This last year, he played 141 games, 525 at-bats, a 1.6 WAR. If that trend continues, he might have a negative WAR this year.
Yeah.
And that's just it. I think that Joey Votto, sooner rather than later, is going to be that veteran that comes off the bench rather than that everyday first baseman for the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, I think he's going to have to be. I think he's going to have to be. And again, that's no disrespect. He's a great player. He's been a great player. He's been the face of the franchise. But I think that
since he's been with the team, since 2007. So his entire career he's been a Red.
Yeah, and that's pretty impressive. I think that's shifting. At this point. But you look at the Cincinnati Reds team, and you look at this depth chart, and you look at the power around this team with Winker, with Nick Senzel. In his first year, I think that he's going to be a guy who really comes along. Castellanos, Eugenio Suarez, my gosh, what a season he had last year. Mike Moustakas brings 30 to 35 home runs. We're looking at a lineup that's going to have power up and down, and then you have a rotation that has really good pitchers. You're looking at a very solid Cincinnati Reds team, and when I say that the Reds are going to be fourth, when we were talking in our Brewers segment, I'm probably lowballing them big time, because this could be a surprise dark horse team, as you've kind of been talking about, that comes up in the NL Central.
And Sam, even in Twitch chat, says, be afraid of them. Reds were the White Sox of the NL Central on paper with their current roster from trades and free agency. Here's my final thoughts, though, on the Reds. Will they be a better team than last year? Yes.
Yeah.
To me, though, it's not going to, don't expect 90 wins out of this team. Don't expect 10-plus wins out of this team. At the most, you're going to see 5 wins. At most, they're an 80, maybe even 81, 82 win team. But the thing I think that at the end of the year, when it's all said and done, let's say they finish third, let's say they finish second in the NL Central. The storyline is not going to be, wow, look at how good the Reds were. The storyline is going to be, wow, the Brewers were bad this year. Wow, I didn't expect, wow, David Ross in his first year really didn't have this Cubs team clicking. That's going to be the narrative.
I don't think
That's
so.
going to be the story. It's going to be either the Brewers or the Cubs. What happened with those two teams? Because those two teams, I think in this division, you only got one team that I expect to not have any questions about, and that's the Cardinals. Well, there's two known facts from the NL Central. We know who's going to come in first, most likely. We know who's going to finish in last. We know the Pirates suck, and they're probably going to be the worst team in the division. We know that the Cardinals are the favorites, and they have limited questions and are probably going to win the damn thing. The Brewers and Cubs have so many questions. With the Brewers, it's what are the losses of like Davies and Anderson and Grandal? What does that mean to this team?
And Moustakas.
And Moustakas, who was also a loss for it. They have key losses. The Cubs, they fired their manager. You're firing your manager, bringing in a whole new philosophy, a whole new game manager, because it's basically what managers do, why they're called managers. Also with the bullpen. Did the bullpen get better? The pitching from last year, even the starters, there was kind of like, I made the joke to you all of last year, was 2018, everyone was on fire but you, Darvish, and then you finally was like, yeah, I got my shit together, I'm on fire, and then everyone else decided not to show up. So it's like, what are we going to see from the Cubs? And I feel like, let's say the Reds finish second in the division, it won't be because the Reds lit the door, like blew the doors off the barn. It's going to be because the Cubs or the Brewers shot well under their expectations. That's how I feel the narrative is going to be at the end of the year.
And now, see, I will disagree with you. I think that if the Reds are to finish second or by some chance really become the dark horse and finish first in the division, no one's going to talk about those other teams. If they're going to talk about the Reds, they're going to talk about how did the Reds shoot up there and do this.
I will say this.
And
the only way we talk about the Reds and how good they were is if they win the division. Because in order to win this division, you got to get 91 to 92 wins. And if you go from 75 wins to 92 wins, that's on you, not on someone else. But if you're at like 81, 82, and you finish in third, and the Cubs were at 79, let's say the Cubs finished with 79 wins this year, I'm not talking about the team that improved 5 to 6 wins. I'm talking about the team that I want to say disproved. That's not a word. Declined by 5 to 6 wins. A team that, like the Cubs, and this is what comes with it, the Cubs and Brewers, there are already teams that have that World Series aspiration. They have that. Brewers were 1 game away. Cubs have won it, and they're a team that for years we thought with this core, they should be able to win multiple ones. This is what happens when you have those teams with those stigmas around them. The storylines come with them. So that's why I feel like the attention at the end of the year will be most likely on the underachievers in this division rather than the one team that maybe won 5 or 6 games more than they did last year.
Well, that's where we will turn it over to you. What do you guys think? Especially for you Cincinnati Reds fans out there, you have a lot to be excited about. I think it's going to be a really good roster, definitely a good lineup up and down, pitching staff. How do you think that bullpen is going to be? But definitely, I think you're going to see an improvement in your Cincinnati Reds this season.